Since we uploaded the video about why the hell Margarita's dad is a super buff human guy, I've been watching regular show to see what other mysterious mysteries we still need to explain. And while I was at it, I came across the episode Race for the Fireworks. In that episode, the guys meet Hector, the Mexican dealer, Muscle Man's friend, with whom he clearly had a previous friendship. But we know absolutely nothing about him, beyond what this episode of just over 10 minutes tells us. Because of this, even though exploring Musculoso's criminal past sounds like the best video ever, it wouldn't be very long. So I decided to combine this mystery with two other shorter mysteries that I couldn't have turned into a longer video without a biblical amount of filler. What was the last censored favor Rigby asked Mordecai for in Do Me a Solid? And the basically confirmed theory that Mordecai, Rigby, and company spend their time drinking alcohol on screen. So without further ado, welcome to Treatment. 3 mysterious mysteries from regular show. Number 1. Do Mordecai and Rigby constantly drink on screen? Unless you've been living under a rock without internet access for the last 15 years. You probably know that regular show is a series with a lot of pretty adult elements, despite being a Cartoon Network property. And besides the huge amount of jokes that aren't suitable for kids, there's the whole topic of substance use. And no, I'm not talking about the crazy theory that the whole show is a hallucination or something like that. The thing is, I didn't realize it when I was a kid, but it's pretty obvious that the sodas and wings aren't just sodas and wings. This is a topic where I'll have to get pretty creative with the terminology to avoid a banhammer, so first of all...
Disclaimer. The following is a purely informational section that in no way promotes the use of alcohol or drugs. Everything seen here is a commentary on the analogies used in regular No More, and it came up because I thought it was really funny to see Benson on a psychedelic trip after drinking an ultra-spicy drink called the Mississippi Q.
Soda is the most obvious case, to the point that many people theorize that, in regular show, soda is literally the name of a beer brand. In several episodes, they arrive with 6 packs of beer or soda, drink a few at once, and faithfully keep the tradition of having beers on the roof while discussing romantic troubles. In fact, in the episode The Longest Weekend, we directly see Mordecai and Rigby sneaking sodas out of a cooler and putting them in paper bags. It turns out that soda is, many theorize, in the case of regular show, a very common way to drink with the bottle in a paper bag so that it's not obvious it's an alcoholic beverage. That way, technically, you're not drinking alcohol in public, and as a result, it's practically an American tradition to drink beer in paper bags. The thing about the wings isn't so obvious at first, but it's more than clear in the episode Gold Watch from Season 5, where the guys celebrate by eating wings because of Benson's reward for 1,000 consecutive days of arriving early to work. Here, Skips and Pops tell him to be very careful not to go overboard with the wings. Wings because sometimes people do things they regret with a stomach full of wings. And the episode cuts to a scene of Benson with memory lapses in the middle of the desert in a kind of what happened last night situation thanks to the industrial amount of wings in quotes that he drank the night before. Watching other episodes like Uniformed Men or Dodge This, it's pretty obvious that the Wing Kingdom is basically a bar, and the wings work like strong, destructive alcohol, in contrast to the sodas, which are only drunk socially. Putting aside whether they're made with alcohol or not, all of this is connected to Benson's alcoholism. But that's a topic for another time, because we still have the other psychoactive substances that have appeared in the series. We all know the legendary Mississippi Queen, and it's even likely that you've come to the conclusion that Mordecai and Rigby aren't really dumb, but rather the #1 fans of demonetizable lettuce when they're off-screen. You might have even made the connection about what the ultra-charged coffee from the episode Tickets with Caffeine really represented. But maybe you don't know that, for some reason, water also seems to be a liquor. Yeah, it's pretty weird, but most of the episode, the rematch, takes place at McCooligan's, which seems to be the show's version of an Irish bar. About halfway through the episode, the guys go back to the bar, and when Benson says he'll pay for the drinks, Rigby replies that he'll order an ice on the rocks, and Pops mentions that he'll order a flavored water. But in the original language, he actually says he'll order an aquarita, like a margarita, but with water. What this seems to indicate is that there's not only regular water, but also aqua, and it's a very common liquor in this world. Something you might think, along with everything else, is pretty weird for a Cartoon Network show. But if you keep in mind that the series was originally going to air on Adult Swim, and really, everything in the show is based on J.G. Quintel and his messy college life, so it all makes perfect sense. Number 2. What was the last favor that Rigby asked Mordecai for? In the episode Do Me a Solid, Mordecai and Rigby do several favors for each other, under the logic of owing each other those favors. This quickly gets out of control when Mordecai trades 10 favors to Rigby so he can go on a double date with Margarita and Aileen, whom Rigby doesn't even want to see. Throughout the date, Rick and Rigby use their favors to sabotage Mordecai, with actions that become more and more horrible and embarrassing, and favor number 10 turns out to be something so horrifying that they never clearly explain what it is. It's so disgusting that Mordecai refuses to do it, to the point that the house starts splitting in two because of the abuse of the power of favors and Mordecai's refusal to perform such an abominable act. In the end, Mordecai has to do his favor to keep everyone from dying, a favor he believes will make Margarita lose all respect for him, and while he's doing it, all we see are the horrified faces of the park employees, and Rigby recording him. So, what the heck did Rigby force Mordecai to do? Well, the first clue we have is the noises he makes. They're seemingly random noises, but many people on the internet think it could be a mating dance. Remember, Mordecai is a bird and really didn't want to mess things up with Margarita. Rigby could make him do it just to sabotage things, but that doesn't seem bad enough to explain why all his friends were so horrified. I even read people saying that it would be more shocking if he laid an egg. I even read people saying that Rigby told him to lay an egg. That doesn't work at all biologically speaking. No, the answer lies in focusing on what they say in the original language and what the sounds Mordecai actually made during his favor really were. Well, it turns out that in English, the episode is called Do Me a Solid, which literally translates to do me a solid instead of saying do me a favor. In this context, a solid only refers to one of those special favors. So, for example, when they tell Skips about the gross favor Mordecai has to do, in the original language, Skips replies do us a solid and do your solid, as if to say do us a favor and do your favor. But if they literally tell him to do a solid in front of everyone, and then he crouches down, causing everyone present to look horrified and disgusted, now it all seems to point to the fact that he was, well, doing a solid in the middle of the room. Instead of laying an egg, he was faxing the devil. The final proof is that when Mordecai crouches down, the sounds he makes are those of a dump truck, depending on what you call it in your area. And in English, a truck like that is called a dump truck, which is a very convenient play on words with the expression taking a dump, which in Spanish refers to going to the bathroom and doing a number 2. Yes, Rick and Rigby win the medal for worst friend in history by forcing Mordecai to drop a deuce in the middle of the room while making truck noises in front of his crush, and on top of that, being recorded for posterity. I wish the answer were less disturbing, but I can't argue with such solid evidence. Number 3. Why does Muscle Man have cartel ties? Is that why it's even more illegal than before? Okay, yeah, we need to explain this one step by step. In the episode titled Race for the Fireworks, Muscle Man, Ghost Man, Mordecai, and Rigby end up setting them off prematurely and accidentally, all the fireworks for the park's biggest annual celebration. So they have to find a supplier of good and cheap fireworks, and all before sunset, which means they have to go to one of Muscle Man's weird contacts, a guy named Hector. Hector is the one who runs the stuffed chili factory south of the border, and Muscle Man says that the fireworks business is just a side gig for him. But when they arrive, it's more than obvious that this guy is a volatile and psychopathic character. And what about Merry Christmas? And the tense interaction is much more in line with a drug deal than with a fireworks sale. Hector even charges them double for being last-minute fireworks, and to pay for this, he forces them to make an ultra-dangerous delivery to some friends of his who are definitely not part of a Mexican criminal organization. It turns out these friends were the front for an illegal operation, and the package they delivered was gunpowder used in preparing the spiciest stuffed peppers in the world. After discovering the secret, they are captured and chained by Hector, who plans to kill them with an improvised stuffed pepper explosive. The rest of the episode is pretty crazy, but it's fairly standard for a regular show. The guys escape by stealing a giant firework called El Diablo and destroying the factory. They return to the park just in time, fight against Hector, who turns out to secretly be a Mexican cyborg, using a golden AK-47 to threaten everyone, and they defeat him using El Diablo, which was prophesied to bring Hector down. An ending that leaves us with a lot of unanswered questions, but only one that really interests us. How the heck did Muscle Man meet Hector in the first place? Looking more closely at their interactions, it's clear that they were somewhat close friends in the past. And that, even though Hector doesn't personally hate Muscle Man, he is someone very volatile, even with those who know him. Muscle Man knew the code to enter Hector's hideout. He knew about his fireworks business, and he even knew in advance how much the box cost, because he brought the exact amount of money in a sealed envelope. But there really isn't a direct answer to how they know each other, although there is the small detail that Hector calls him brother, and then asks if he thinks he can fix everything by going to his uncle Hector to save him. Some theorize this means he was either a friend or boss of Muscle Man's father, which explains the comment about Uncle Hector. But that doesn't fit since Muscle Man didn't even know his father's real job, which is central in the Trailer Hall or Hall of Fame episode. And just in case, his father claimed to be a truck driver, but secretly operated forklifts. Nothing to do with being considered a brother by the leader of the explosive stuffed chili cartel south of the border. Well, that question we're asking is also asked by Mordecai while they're chained to the bench. And it's a running joke throughout the series that Muscle Man always knows a guy. It's pretty funny, and I read that some people think it could be as simple as Muscle Man being popular in school, and therefore he kept his friendships for years. But to be honest with you, I think the real answer to all of this comes from somewhere else. Going through episode by episode, I realized there's an interesting pattern for most of Muscle Man's contacts. For example, we see on screen that Mitch knows a guy who does underground car repairs. Also a thug named Bobby who is ridiculously strong. There's also a corrupt cop who tells him that he really knows how to break the law. And a guy who does shady deals with a plane who changed his name to something like Toby Parachutist or something like that. And at the end of the same episode with Hector, he even mentions that he knows someone who delivers cheap grass and dirt. All of these are necessary contacts if you're part of a criminal organization, and a dangerous one, judging by the grass thing, and they're really not useful for anything else. I mean, Muscle Man also seems to know guys who work at different food places and stuff like that, but really, the vast majority of his contacts suggest that he was part of a criminal organization, which means that Muscle Man was part of that same cartel in the past, probably when he was quite young. And he left in a non-violent way, judging by the good relationship he maintains with everyone. And I'm even prepared to go a little further. We know that Muscle Man has another friend who is a police officer, but he was in prison for a while. Someone who could have led him into this life of crime at an early age, but is also close enough to forgive him if he ever wanted to get out at some point. I'm talking, obviously, about Low 5 Ghost, High 5 Ghost's brother, who in the episode I'll See You There, has to be taken out of prison by Muscle Man. He's the only recurring character who's close enough to Mitch, and at the same time, criminal enough to have connected him with Hector in the distant past. But until they confirm it or we get a little more information, it's still a mystery exactly how Musculoso's past criminal life went. So I hope you enjoyed this mysterious and theoretical video. Give it a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more videos, and comment any other mysteries you'd like covered. Pray to all the saints you know to see if I can finish the Evangelion video before the heat death of the universe. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.